So yet another way to find out information about a triangle when it's not a right triangle is to use the law of cosines. The law of cosines goes like this. So let's say that this is angle A. Across from it, that's going to be lowercase a. The other sides are going to be called B and C. So with the law of cosines, first of all, you need to go across from the angle and start with this side. It starts looking like the Pythagorean theorem. A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared. And if it was a right triangle, and if this was the 90 degrees, we would be done. But since this is not a right triangle, we need to compensate for that. So then there's also minus 2 times B times C, and then take cosine of angle A. So for example number 1, suppose that the triangle looks like this. Not quite as neat as my last one, but that's okay. And let's say this is 27 degrees. Across from that, that's what we need to find. This bottom side is 19 inches, and this is 14 inches. Then solve for x. So notice that we cannot use the law of sines on this one because we need to go x divided by sine of 27 equals 14 divided by sine of, and this information is missing here also. So we can't use law of sines, thus law of cosines. And it all starts with this angle, and you go straight across from that. And so the formula is going to start with x squared. So it's going to be x squared equals, and then you square the two other sides. Then it goes minus 2 times those two sides, and then cosine of 27 degrees. So then we can just put this into a calculator, take the square root of both sides, and we'll already be done. So make sure that the calculator's in degrees, and then it's going to be 14 squared plus 19 squared minus 2 times the 14 and the 19. Take cosine of 27, double check that it's in degrees, and now take the square root of that. So to be as accurate as possible, I'm going to put second square root and then second answer. So that answer is right down here underneath the negative. And that way it will type in this actually to 13 decimal places into the square root. So it's a 9.110. So x is equal to a 9.110 inches. Now you can also use this to solve for this angle as long as you know the other side. So this one, example number 2, I find pretty interesting because if you have a triangle and you only know how long the sides are, let's say it's 3, what's that, about 4 and 6. So then how much is this angle right here? I'll call it theta. So again, it starts with, you go across from that angle, and the formula needs to start with the 4. So 4 squared equals 3 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times the 3 times the 6, and then cosine of the angle. So this is going to be 16. 3 squared is 9. 6 squared is 36. And this is going to be an 18 times 2, so it's going to be minus 36 times cosine of theta. When you add these two together, that's going to be 45. So subtract 45 from both sides. And Is that 27? 16 minus 45, oh, 29. Negative 29. Good thing I've got a calculator. And then we only have 2 more steps. One is to isolate the cosine, divide both sides by negative 36. And then these negatives will cancel. Then the last thing to do is take cosine of both sides. So cosine inverse of both sides. So what is cosine inverse of 29 over 36? Cosine inverse of 29 over 36 is 36.336 degrees. Then for example number 3, what if the picture is not drawn for you? So for example number 3, so we're given in triangle ABC, side A is 76 feet long. Side C is 43 feet long, and angle B, so the capital is used for the angles, the lowercase is used for the sides, and B is 16 degrees. To be a little more precise, I should say angle B equals 16 degrees. So I don't have to draw the triangle very precise at all, just there's a triangle. And I'm going to use this as B, so this is 16 degrees. Oh, I forgot to say the question. Find side B. Okay. So let's see. I'll call this one A and this one C. And so across, that's a capital C, by the way. Across from this capital C is the lowercase c, so that's 43 feet. And across from capital A, that'll be the lowercase a, so this one is 76 feet. And then, how much is x? And as I may have mentioned before, start with this angle and then go across from that. So the formula is going to start with x squared equals 43 squared plus 76 squared. The order of these doesn't matter, as long as you get them both in there. Minus 2 times the 43 times the 76, and then take cosine of the 16 degrees. So previously I had done the calculation and then took the square root. I could do the whole thing at once. Just go second, square root, and then 43 squared plus 76 squared minus 2 times 43 times 76, and also times cosine of 16 degrees. Well, that's a strange coincidence. Our last answer was very similar. So x is equal to 36.636, and this would be in feet. What about a word problem? Oh, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked. So for the last example, an application, this is number 4. So 2 planes take off from an airport at the same time. Must be a big airport. So one plane averages 270 miles an hour with a bearing from the north, go 20 degrees to the west. And then the other one flies at 270 miles. Oh, that one's 270, sorry. The other one is 240 miles per hour. Bearing from the north, go 80 degrees to the west. How far apart are the two planes? After 30 minutes. All right, so first I'm going to start doing the bearing. So this is going to be the north line. And then this plane goes 20 degrees towards the west. So that is approximately like this. And so this is 20 degrees. Now that plane averages 270 miles per hour, and this is only half an hour. So we need half of this number. So that would be, half would be 100, half of this is 35. So this is 135 miles. Now for the next plane, it's bearing 80 degrees towards the west. So 90 degrees would be straight across this way to the left. So it's going to be approximately like this. So going from this north line all the way over to here is 80 degrees. Well, if I count this 20 already, that means that this gap right here is going to be 60. And then they go for 30 minutes or half an hour. So half of this would be 120 miles. And then how far apart are they? So that's this distance right here, x. And then it's set up perfectly for the law of cosines. So start with this 60 degrees, go straight across and start with x. So x squared equals, and then 120 squared plus 135 squared minus 2 times the 120, the 135, and the cosine of 60. And again, we could type that all into the calculator at once, starting with the square root to go straight to the answer. So the second square root of a 120 squared plus a 135 squared minus 2 times the 120 and the 135 and the cosine of 60. So the two planes will be 128.16 miles apart.